everyone, welcome to the channel, and this video is about the why. Now there are many things that you have to decide to do, perhaps equipment you need to buy, vehicles that you need to consider, routes, and what money do you have in order to achieve all of that. And this series is about how we answered some of those questions. So this is the first in the why series, and this video will be specifically looking at why a pickup truck. Why a pickup truck? And we're going through perhaps three main parts for that: budget, availability, and intention. And they all have a major part to play. They all have to be balanced out. What is the main intention of where you want to go, what you want to do? What budget do you have available to you, not just in order to purchase the initial product, but in order to use the product, maintain the product for a length of time perhaps. And of course, what availability do you have? So this video will be about that intention, that budget, and that availability. So let's have a little look. Okay, so in this case, the intention for us was very clear. It's been a dream for many years, but what I realized is that you have to change your dreams into goals, into targets, something to aim for, not just think that I'd like to do that someday. But you have to move forward, you have to take a step forward to do that. And the first step that I realized that I needed to take was many years ago, and it was a decision, and that was a decision, I'm going to do that. And it was a decision when I saw something on the TV, and it was guys going across the world on a motorbike, and I thought, I want to do that. The intention is to see the world. Now that just doesn't mean a country and the landscapes and the people, but to just go and experience life wherever that may be in different parts of the world. And I just got so excited by that, and the challenges of what that would be, not knowing all of that. So I started to think about, well, let's start with what they started with. So I started to look at a motorbike, and I started to think, right, what do I need in order to do that? And I actually did. I actually purchased a motorbike. In fact, a newer model to what they used on their trip. I saw what they were doing, and I thought, I want not just want to go around the world, I want to go to certain places that perhaps are not just city centres, on the coastline that it's not easy to get to see communities which are higher altitude, to go into various parts of different countries which aren't as easily accessible. So when you narrow that down, you can't just buy any old bike, or you will have bigger challenges. As long as you're aware of those challenges, that isn't an issue, but you want to reduce those challenges. And so I bought an adventure bike, a very nice bike. You can take a little look, and I'm very happy. Started down that route and started to look at, okay, what do I need to go with this bike? And you start thinking about what other people have. You do some research, and I'm a gadget person, so I like to look at gadgets and what I can put on the bike, and started to head towards that. Things are going really well. However, it's not just me that's going to do this. Myself and my wife, Julia. Julia likes to go on the back of the bike, and that was part and parcel of, I want to do this with Julia. It's not I just wanted to. There is one thing about going around the world, but it's a dynamic when you get to experience fantastic experiences in various countries, but you're able to share them, recording them on pictures, on photographs or videos. It's great, and you can share that with family. But the moment, that present moment, in sharing that moment with someone, it has a different dynamic. So it was crucial for me that it wasn't just about myself experiencing this, it was myself and Julia who were going to go and do this. Right, so that's the starting point. That was the intention. There were three main reasons that we decided to move from a pickup truck, from a bike to a pickup truck. First of all was we realised that Julia can't ride a bike. She hasn't got a bike license, and she hasn't got the skills to ride a bike. So if something happened on our trip, then it may delay, it may cause a problem. If we're in the middle of somewhere and I'm injured, it's an issue. The second part of that was that you are limited. Even though there's a lot of people who do this and are able to do this, tour on a bike, the amount of luggage that you take is reduced. You have to be careful of the weight, and that's a minor one, but it's still an issue. And the third one is Julia is just a little bit claustrophobic, and so there are times when she has been camping and she stuck the head out of the tent. So what that has meant is that it occurred to me that I thought, well, okay, so let's say we are out in the middle of nowhere and in certain countries, and you set up your tent and she sticks her head out, what kind of creatures are going to be around? Certain spiders and so forth. So I thought, this is not a good idea. So I started to think about how I can change that, up level that, and look at alternatives. And so that meant perhaps raising off the ground. That seemed to be a logic idea, to raise off the ground. So moving from a bike to something else, to a pickup truck, became a good decision. When you start narrowing down some of those observations you've just heard me refer to, we want to be able to still go to places which are just a little bit off grid. It's not just a main road, it's not just a two-lane row of traffic that goes around the city centre or through a city centre. It could be not even a track at all. And going to those places means that you can't just have any old vehicle. You certainly need, probably wise, very wise, to look at something which has a 4x4 option. And so that led us down that path, that it would be a 4x4 option. And so what's the difference between choosing a specific pickup truck or choosing a Land Rover or a Toyota Land Cruiser? There are options in Malaysia, but they are limited options. And that then leads us to the next section, which is availability. Okay, I'm going to show you some examples of what is available. Now, when I mean available, it's possible to get them. So I live in a certain part of Malaysia, just outside KL, and I could have any one of these on my drive. One of the things that's available is they import vehicles. It's very expensive to import vehicles, but sometimes they import some camper vans, but they are very old camper vans, and so some of the parts are not always accessible. But they also import some of the older ones because it's actually cheaper for Malaysians to actually access an opportunity to use a camper van of sorts in order to go camping in their style. Other end of the scale is that there is one or two options. I say one or two, not many. It is really rare to find this. But there are Mercedes Sprinter vans, converted camper vans, which are very high level, very high class, imported, already converted, and they look fantastic. But the price is right up there, right off the scale. But they do look very, very good. There are some vans that you could convert yourself. It's not easy to get like a Volkswagen Crafter or a Ford Transit in Malaysia. They are very rare, and if they are here, they are old imported vehicles. But what is here is a Chinese van called Maxus. You can actually get a Maxus V80. You can actually get these vans in the UK. It's possible to do that. So those vans are here. You can actually buy them brand new, but they are short wheelbase, and obviously they need to be converted into an RV van, camper van of the style that you would prefer. So that's possible again. So they are available. And the other option is that it is actually possible to import from China some rooftop tents. So you could have a 4x4, a Suzuki Jimmy, a 4x4 Land Cruiser of some kind, and put a rooftop tent on it. So when you start digging down a little bit deeper, there are definitely some options for Malaysia. So then we have to start looking about really how much that would cost. Are they suitable? Are they practical? How much time does it take? How much time do I have? All of that. And so the availability of these and narrowing that down, that was actually probably more difficult, because you then have to look at all those other reasons we talked about, intentions. And so when you want to go off-grid, you want to be able to have enough power, enough electricity, so you're talking solar panels. You want to be able to have enough resources, so you're probably talking about water. So there's certain things that you have to consider and how that would work and what the current availability is to be able to do that. And it was much more challenging to be able to say, when you want to go off-grid and you want to go down the road less followed, that the resources that are available are less available here in Malaysia. So that narrowed it down a little bit. Was it possible to convert a Maxus fan? Yes, it was, but it probably would require a lot of importing. And that's not a problem, but the Maxus fan is limited in size. So we started to lean away from that. Could we get an already converted Mercedes Sprinter? Yes, but they were very expensive. You can see the price. You're talking close to 150,000 euros thereabouts, and that's possibly what the vehicle is valued at. But that's not what my budget was, and so I have to be very careful in balancing out the intention, the budget, and the availability. It's something that you need to have in the back of your mind about what would happen if. What would happen if we're on our way through Africa and there was an issue with the water pump? What would happen if we were travelling down through Central America and there is an issue with fuel injectors? When you start narrowing that down, can you get parts? Can you get availability? Does it cause a hiccup? Is it a problem? Do you take spares? All those sorts of questions start to come into it. And what I started to realise that I needed to look for a reliable vehicle, fairly new vehicle I'm familiar with, a vehicle perhaps that where parts are available. And so I started to look at more common brands and looked at possibly things like Toyota or Ford, and looking at what availability they have here in Malaysia and how that would impact where we would go through the countries around the world. Okay, so when you are thinking about travelling around the world, there are a lot of costs that you have to be aware of. Some people spend a lot of time researching these, some people do rough costs, but you certainly need to do something. If you're going in to take your vehicle into certain countries of the world, you need to have a carte de passage. How much does that cost? Which countries require that? What about your own medical insurance? What happens if you fall sick or if you injure yourself? How can you afford to do that? There's a lot of costs involved. What about diesel or petrol costs? What about heating costs, eating costs? There's a lot of things to be aware of. How long will your journey take? Are you bearing that in mind? Are you going to spend longer than 6 months, a year, 2 years? So do you have the budget for all of that? All of those costs need to be sort of put into place. And so when I started looking at what we were doing, when I started looking at our plans, the plans were very broad, and so I needed to bring and narrow them down. I needed to consider a route. Which routes would we go based in Malaysia here? Do we go south? Do we go north? Which countries will allow us to go through? Is there a problem going through certain routes? Do I need to ship the vehicle? What are the costs of shipping those vehicles? Narrowing all of those decisions down. And we have a route in mind, we have a plan in mind. you will need to be flexible. You won't be able to do everything the way you have got planned, but to have something as a structure will certainly help the direction in which you follow. So having that route will help you to narrow down budget of costs. But then we are now talking about a pickup truck and the cost for the pickup truck, and that's where it's important to realise what budget do you have available to purchase one, and is that brand new, second hand? In my case, I was looking at reliability, I was looking at warranty, I was looking at, I'm not going to go straight away, I want to have time to build up a vehicle so that we are absolutely sure of what it would be like, that we are convinced that this is the type that we want, and any additions or modifications are done well in advance. Maybe a few tweaks on our journey, but the bulk of the vehicle is done before we go. You will see in the next video where we were deciding on where we were going to sleep, what was the decision behind the scenes that meant all that, because the pickup truck and where we were going to sleep go alongside each other. It's very important to sort of recognise that if you went down a Mercedes Sprinter van route, you know what kind of process it would be for you to sleep. And if it was a pickup truck, you're looking at a canopy, or you're looking at something on the back, or a rooftop tent. So that narrowed those choices down, and you'll see that our choice for the pickup truck and the canopy itself were in alignment together as we went down that pathway. So budget was down and narrowed down to cost of the Ford Ranger. Alright, so reached the end of this video. Budget, availability and intention. Above all this, when you narrow down why you want to do something, you can narrow down all other choices. When you know why you want to go here, why you want to go there, when you realize that is the way in which you can focus all the other answers to the question, that helps you to narrow down your decisions. Whether it's modifying this vehicle, whether it's adapting this vehicle, whether it's doing this modification. Do I need this modification? Why am I doing this? When you narrow down your choices by why, you get those answers that you need. In this case, why the pickup? We knew that we wanted to go around the world. We knew that we wanted to be able to go places which were a little bit more off-grid. We knew what kind of budget we had available. We knew what availability we had around us, and we knew how we wanted to sleep. All of those narrowed down, the choice became easier and easier and easier. See you next time, and next video we'll be looking at why an Alucab canopy.